The Tennessee football program landed another commitment yesterday. CJ Edwards out of New Jersey committed to the Vols for 2026. He is an edge rusher. He is the first official commitment that Coach Chop landed since Lavorne Harbin has been promoted to an on-field assistant coach. Tennessee was the first school to offer him. He committed over a few other schools, Michigan being the most notable. Comes out of St. Joseph High School in Metuchen, New Jersey. 6'4", 215 pounds. Not rated on some services, a 3-star on others, but he is fast rising. And this is my argument, is that this is one of the guys that Tennessee banks on becoming a steal.
Look at that.
Yeah, that they bank on becoming a steal. They hired Lavorne Harbin specifically for this reason, his ability to evaluate talent, particularly on the defensive line. So Tennessee recruits two ways. They shell out money for the 2 5-stars for sizzle in the class, right? Mike Matthews, David Sanders, Nico Iamaleava in a class. And then they spend the rest of the time identifying talent extremely early and trying to get them in before anybody else does, and finding guys that nobody else wants. And they spend a lot of time and effort on that. They're banking on CJ Edwards at 6'4", 215. He's got a very quick first step, very athletic. He's got James Pierce level athleticism. They're banking on him maintaining that athleticism as he puts on probably 20 pounds into his senior year and through his conditioning program in college. That's the bank on it.
My question is, we've got our own recruiting rankings that we talk about on offthehooksports.com. If you don't know, it's called the Anywhere, Somewhere, Nowhere guy. So I'm going to ask you, is he an anywhere, somewhere, or nowhere guy? Obviously, it's not a nowhere. He's landed at Tennessee. Bank on it, brought to you by Commercial Bank.
Commercial Bank is your neighborhood bank. What makes us different from other banks? We understand that every customer has unique opportunities, challenges, and financial concerns. We don't expect you to fit into the same box as the next person or business. Whether it's purchasing a home, saving for your child's future, or planning for your next vacation, we're with you every step of the way to navigate life's big decisions.
Caleb, let's be honest, he's a somewhere guy. He had offers from Boston College, Duke. I mean, no real football powerhouse. Tennessee's pretty much the only one. Do you think he'll be an anywhere guy? Does he have that type of ability as we get closer to when he enrolls at, well, we think UT because he's commitment, but who knows?
He's a somewhere guy who can turn into an anywhere guy once he develops at Tennessee. And this, by the way, I think we forget this. James Pierce was kind of a somewhere guy when he committed to Tennessee a few years ago.
4-star though.
Yeah, but he was the 18th ranked edge rusher, like the 173rd ranked player nationally, like not even in the top 5 in his home state, like good, but not like blow you away. And then he became one of the best NFL draft prospects in the nation of any position. I think now James Pierce was 6'5", 220, whereas this guy, CJ Edwards, is 6'4", 215. The catch is always the thing that the question is, and Dave, you've probably covered a lot of conditioning players like this. Probably the biggest thing that causes players to bust, isn't it, is once they put on the weight that they need to put on to play at the SEC level, they unfortunately lose their athleticism, right?
Yes. And, well, you've got to know if he's going to be able to handle more weight with that and keep his speed. If not, he's a linebacker, right? And I don't think anybody sees him as a linebacker, but if you put on that weight, and I've seen that happen with players before, you put on that weight, you don't keep your speed, well, that's problematic. That turns you into a different player.
Exactly. So that's Tennessee's playing a betting game with him. They're playing a betting game that CJ Edwards, once he puts on 20 pounds, will maintain his athleticism. Now, that's part of what they kind of have to do still to recruit, and that's part of early evaluations and things like that. And maybe they got a good conditioning program that lets them know that stuff happens. But they went after this guy so early. I mean, they were the first school to offer him, and they've been going after him hard. And again, Lavorne Harbin going after him, that's what makes me bank on it, that he's a somewhere guy now who's going to turn into an anywhere guy when he's at Tennessee. I don't think he'll be as good as James Pierce, but I don't think James Pierce will be as good as Jordan Ross. But I do potentially see like a Joshua Josephs in this guy. I think he could be Joshua Josephs.
We've said James Pierce, his name 3 or 4 times. How much do you think he changed Tennessee's football program? He didn't have the impact on the field that a lot of people wanted last year, but you're able to point to this guy and say there's a first-round NFL draft pick. So that's significant to me. I don't know that they necessarily get a commitment from this young man, Edwards, CJ Edwards, if they don't have Pierce on their resume.
I think James Pierce changed it, but if James Pierce changed it, he's Peyton Manning and Byron Young was Heath Schuler.
Okay.
I think Byron Young changed it first. I think
might be a column in there for me. That's pretty good stuff right there.
Yeah, I think Byron Young. Remember, this guy was stocking groceries and then just walked on to Georgia Military Prep and then got signed. And so, look, I think that Byron Young was the one that made, and then just Rodney Garner's existence made people believe, and James Pierce followed that. And then, other players are following James Pierce, particularly Jordan Ross. So, look, I think that, and now that I'm saying that James Pierce comparison, though, this guy's more Joshua Josephs. Joshua Josephs was a perfect compliment last year to James Pierce, wasn't he? And I think he could be, like, Joshua Josephs is not going to blow you away in the NFL. He might get a job in the NFL, but he's not a James Pierce. This guy, CJ Edwards, looks like he could be a Joshua Josephs, which is valuable.
Derek says JP was a great find. And David also points out that, remember, Jason Jenkins was a low 3-star who contributed a lot last year before FSU got him. So, yeah, I mean, I think there's potential for him to be a Jason Jenkins type or maybe a Joshua Josephs. I think that to say that he's going to be James Pierce and be projected at some point as the #1 overall pick in the NFL draft is a bit lofty. I will say this. I watched tape of him, love his motor. I think he's I think he plays hard. I think that's key. Again, I will go back to what Caleb said, and I think he was right on point. And he carry more weight because right now he is 216? Is that what he's listed as?
215. 6'3", 215, yeah.
Yeah. So he's 6'4". I mean, he needs to play at probably 245.
Yeah, so he's got to put on 30 pounds.
It's a lot of Cajun food.
That's true, but he's in Jersey, so it's a lot of. I guess I guess that's a New York pizza, right up there.
I guess the great stuff about New Jersey.
Nothing.
There isn't anything great about New Jersey.
I mean, I will say I have had and I don't have a gambling problem, but I've had a lot of fun in Atlantic City in my time. I'll say that.
I don't have a gambling.
But yeah, I know, right? Atlantic City is fun, but what I'll say about CJ Edwards, and again, he's 6'4", 215. Some of this, though, is he's going to put on natural weight where he won't lose his athleticism, right? Because he's going to grow just going into senior year in high school, isn't he?
Well, so, you would certainly think so. Yes.
Yeah, and that's going to be natural athleticism, the natural growth that's not going to slow down his athleticism. So he could get to 220, 225 before he's on campus next year. And if that happens, then things are looking a lot better for him. Right now, he is Tennessee, I believe.
It would almost be hard at 6'4", 215 for him not to put on 10 pounds just naturally. Just as, I mean, you've been there. The weight just seems to come on a little bit easier when the older you get. So I think naturally he'll come in at 225.
Oh, I totally agree. And so that's where I think, and so like you could see him move up to a 4-star next year. He's 6'4", 225, and his athleticism hasn't changed. 247 Sports the composite's going to up him to a 4-star. He's the 8th commitment in Tennessee's class right now. Tennessee has the 6th ranked overall class for 2026. That's going to change. It's so early. You can't celebrate recruiting rankings this early out, but it looks like
he would be a guaranteed 4-star.
How?
If Butch Jones was still the coach and he screamed and yelled and cussed out recruiting reporters to give him another star. That's exactly, he'd have another star this morning.